How are we all feeling? Oh, come on, we can do... Look, I've flown all the way from the UK. We can have a bit of noise. How are we all doing? That's exactly what I want to hear. So, look, first of all, thank you so much for having me, but I wanted to start by acknowledging and paying respect to this land and the Gadigal peoples, First Nations, Indigenous, Aboriginal peoples, as the traditional custodians of this land. It's Aboriginal land, it always has been and always will be, and I recognise elders, past, present and future emerging leaders as well. Just to add to that, I want to also acknowledge our trans and non-binary siblings. I think often we don't understand the struggle and the violence on one's mind, body and soul. And as somebody, a black lesbian woman, I stand in complete solidarity with my trans and non-binary siblings every single day, 365 days of the year. Okay. Now, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Phyll Opoku-Gyimah, Lady Phyll, I'm also known as. My pronouns are she, her, and queen bee, and everything sexy and gorgeous. Okay. And I run UK Black Pride. I co-founded this in 2005 with a number of other black, lesbian, bi and trans women, whereby UK Black Pride was, I guess, born out of a frustration. It was born out of a necessity and a need for us to see ourselves all the time and look at representation not in a tokenistic way. And it was also born out of that frustration because in the UK in 2004, there was a heightened far-right activity going on, the sexism, the transphobia, the racism. So for us, the time for waiting was over, and we decided that we needed to have a space for black and brown POC, which is people of colour, to celebrate themselves, whilst also looking at the intersections of the oppressions that we often face and feel. Now, prides are never easy to put on, and whilst this is amazing that we're here at Sydney World Pride, for us, we started with 200 people in a sunny seaside town called Southend. It cost us £477.27, and I know, to the penny. But before we even got to that stage, I went to what was a group of leaders and pillars in our communities to say that we want to start up a Black Pride. We want to have this in the UK. I walked into a room of 13 people, and they were all white, and they were leaders, but they were people who have fought against Section 28, fought for the liberation and space of LGBTQIA+ people. And I kid you not, in that room, as I asked for support, I was laughed at, I was jeered at, and I was also told, please excuse my language, to fuck off and go back to where I came from. Now, I tell you this because I want you to understand, just because we are from a marginalized or underrepresented community, just because we have faced struggles as LGBTQIA+ people, it does not make us exempt from being bigots. We can still be racist, sexist, discriminatory towards disabled people. We can still be incredibly transphobic. So for me, UK Black Pride looks at those very intersections and brings it together, and we call our UK Black Pride, which is run by us and for us, home. So with that, I want us to be able to have this amazing conversation with panelists, which I am incredibly in awe of and incredibly honoured to be able to host this session. And I'd like them to come on. I have Jannat Ali, pronouns she, her, Executive Director of Track-T Organiser, Trans Pride Pakistan. I have Diane Minnis, pronouns she, her, co-chair, first Mardi Gras, part of the 78ers. I have Lenny Emson, pronouns he, him, executive director, KyivPride, Ukraine. And last but no means least, Charlene Liu, pronouns she, her, co-founder of ShanghaiPRIDE, China. Now, please, this is leaders who have been at the forefront of organising prides. And as I said, I'm incredibly proud. Can we just take about 30 seconds to a minute just to set the scene? What is your pride about? What does it do? And how long have you been in existence?
So, hello everyone, and assalamu alaikum. So, yes, my inspiration was to have a celebration because living in such hostile environment, we never got opportunity to get married. And, to celebrate our things because there are highly rates and, such events. So when I had a Pride at Copenhagen, that was my inspiration. I went back, I did promise with myself, I'll make opportunity for my community to celebrate their rights. And that's how it happened. But how did we do it? That was the celebration of our Protection of Transgender Right Act, which was passed in 2018. And luckily, I was one of the key person of that steering committee who got it passed for the self-perceived gender identity.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, our folks were involved in the first Sydney Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras in 1978 and/or the Drop the Charges demonstrations that followed in July and August. It wasn't until the 20th anniversary that we named ourselves 78ers, and it wasn't until 2017 that we formed an organisation called First Mardi Gras Inc. To bring together 78ers to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the first Sydney Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras, and also to remember our history, celebrate our history, and fight for the future.
KyivPride last year, 2022, supposed to celebrate 10th anniversary, right? We're 10 years old. 11 actually will be this year. So KyivPride started 10 years ago as a protest. We were out on the streets to protest the homophobic law that Ukrainian parliament was about to introduce. So we started back in 2012 with 100 people getting ready to go out on the street and protest. In 2021, we had 7,000 people marching with us. And last year, we marched together with our sister pride, Warsaw Pride. We marched in the capital of Warsaw. And 120,000 people joined us for this march in solidarity with Ukrainian LGBTQI community.
Thank you.
Well, hello everyone. Selamat datang. 你好. 大家好. I represent ShanghaiPRIDE China, and we actually started more like because I like to party. We actually started as a party. It was a celebration of diversity, celebration of a diverse group of friends. And then later on, it became a movement because we saw the value in networking and getting our people together. So what we do is really our main purpose is to raise awareness and promote inclusion. And we do that through, well, we cannot go on the streets like the Mardi Gras parade, but what we can do is have film screenings, theater, art exhibition, forums and talks, and of course, parties. And we do this with a lot of help from individuals, from companies, from foreign consulates and embassies, and grassroots organizations and communities.
Thank you. Thank you for setting the scene. Yeah. So I want to start by, and I love that you're clapping. Let's give people their flowers whilst they're here, right? You know, I want to start with you, Jannat and Charlene. Now, what motivated you to become an activist, and what led you to participate in protests of LGBTQI+ rights across the globe?
Thank you for this great question. Yeah, because when I was a child and I used to look my community members begging on the road, doing sex work and dancing, and they were never given key positions. But when I started educating myself that why I'm different, why we don't have space, I'm not doing anything bad, so I had quest to learn about myself, why I'm different. And then I started finding answers in religion, in healthcare, and then I read history that we had huge history. We were there in the Mughal era in the key positions. We were in the army, the transgender persons. They were hired in the army to make strategic decisions. But after colonialism, Criminal Tribal Act, this respect was taken away. So that was my motivation to bring back that respect in my country and to come out as a role model and pave ways for many others in my community. So that's I promise, and I tried my best to be the highest educated transgender in my country. And there are many more now, luckily. So I wanted to become artist, and then I became artist to pave ways for many trans artists in the world. And now also I'm a first transgender lecturer in Pakistan, in Punjab.
Brilliant. Yeah.
You know, Phyll, being an activist or advocate, that was the last thing on my mind. I didn't even know when I was growing up what those two words meant. So again, going back to how we started as Pride, right? It was all about partying, and I thought we're doing this for fun. So the first year Shanghai Pride, it started in 2009. It was basically a gathering of friends and people who support the LGBT+ community to come and gather through different events and support each other. And we thought, okay, this is getting too difficult because you have to get the venues, you have to deal with authorities who came knocking at your door every other week and asking, why are you doing this? Or who's supporting you? And all that, we said, okay, it's too difficult. So we said, we're never ever going to do it again. We all know, never say never. Next year came about, and they actually said, we have friends, we have people coming up to us and say, hey, when's the next Pride? We found our voice, we found our significant other. I got the courage to come out to my parents, my friends. And we get all these messages, and we realized there is a value to it. And so we decided 2010, we're going to do it again. And again, we say we're not going to do it again. And it's been, you know, calculation, been what, over 10, 12, 14 years already. So personal motivation is very simple. Through Shanghai Pride, through getting to know the people in the community and the network, it has helped me become more confident. I accepted myself. I came out to friends, got the courage to come out to friends, got the courage to come out to my colleagues. Finally, got the courage to come out to my family. Most importantly, I met my wife, and I met a great team. At the Shanghai Pride events, my team is here, my wife is here, and that's my motivation.
So that means we were not flirting. The wife is here. Just making that really clear. Came all the way to Australia to find a partner. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. So let's, because I'm on time. Don't laugh too much. They're going to boot us off. So let's go to Diane and Lenny. Now, do you think the experience of being a member of the LGBTQI+ community, in particular in your country, has influenced your approach to activism and advocacy? And if so, what does that look like?
Well, I guess in the early 70s, there were a couple of activist organisations, particularly CAMP, which formed in 1970. I wasn't part of that. And they, at that stage, were probably focusing on advocacy and education. I got involved in gay liberation, which was out there on the streets, being out and proud. Yeah. And that is what has influenced me over many, many years, and what we took into 1978 as well.
I love how Diane is so just modest. This is a legend sitting here, and we have to recognize our elders for what they've done to pave the way. Yeah. Thank you.
For me, it's very important to be a member of the community, to be connected with the community. And like on one hand, I am the community. On the other hand, I learn from the community. And people who are supporting the Pride, they are the Pride. And for me, it's very important to have this experience and to share this experience with them and to learn from each experience of every member of the community, of every person who comes to the Pride and every person who joins the march, because still in Ukraine it requires like some bravery, you know, to be there, to be visible as somebody who is marching, and you know, right radicals are there with their phones, like, you know, taking pictures of everyone and like then hunting people down. So this is very important, to praise every member of the community and to be with them and to support them and to answer their needs, what they need in the situation of war, for example, right now, right, and how we can support the community. And this fact that LGBTQI experience, it's ruling the movement, right? This fact is the most important engine for the movement, specifically in Ukraine.
Right, so Lenny, let me stay with you for a moment. And look, people, you would have to have been asleep to notice or not notice that this horrendous war on Ukraine that has happened. So we are immensely glad that you can be here and you're safe. Now, we've seen a global outpouring of absolute love and solidarity. Can you tell us what's actually happening right now to our communities in Ukraine? And also, how have you engaged with other movements and other groups to work in a collaborative way that supports LGBTQIA+ people?
I will start with the last one. Thank you very much for this question. It's a big question, like we don't have much time here, but what I want to say here, that's this 12 months, right, so last week was a year since the full-scale Russian invasion started. This 12 months taught me how united we are in the world and how empowered we are, that we are all together. Like so many members of the community, like organizations, LGBTQ organizations from all over the world, right, from all continents, they reach out to me, they knock my door and ask how they can help and ask how they can be involved and what to do and how we can together help our community in Ukraine. So at this moment, I really felt it, that LGBTQI people in the world are really united at this point, that we all are really together and we are, despite borders, you know, different cultures, continents, like time zones and stuff, right? Despite all this, we're still united and we're still all together. And if one of us is suffering, we all stand up to protect this person or this group or this community in this country. So this is my important lesson, and I'm very proud of my community, I mean the global community in this case, right? And the situation right now in Ukraine for LGBTQI people remains, of course, very complicated because of the economic crisis, right? Because of the constant threat of death and because of unfortunately, right radical activity and still visible members of the community, specifically trans feminine people and gay men would be hunted down, right? And we're trying to protect them. We're working with the police. We're trying to, despite it's kind of wartime, but we're trying to protect people in here, in this situation. So, and we, as the active community, as
members of LGBTQ organizations in Ukraine work a lot to provide humanitarian response, right? Organized humanitarian response, say, on the highest level. So we have a system of shelters for LGBTQI people in Ukraine. We have food support programs, medication support programs specifically for trans people, right? So, and all Ukrainian LGBTQI organizations are involved in humanitarian response and are right now on Iran helping Ukrainian LGBTQI community to survive, because this is the issue number one, to survive.
Thank you. Let me come on to you, Jannat. She's flirting with me because she knows I'm single, right? Stop it. So,
because we have a very short time, there's
yes,
so much in my
I
heart.
know.
I'm thinking how I will cover it
I mean,
up.
can you believe they've given us 45 minutes, but I don't have that thing in my ear, so they can't tell me to stop.
But I've been very specific in first two questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Jannat, I've heard you speak before so passionately and so beautifully about you know, the work that you do and being the first trans lecturer out there. Now, can you tell us about the different intersections of our movement and how you see intersectionality of the issues like race, gender, class playing a major role in the struggle and our liberation for freedoms?
Yes. You know, it's been very challenging since I started activism. I've seen my senior community members who were part of Khwajasra culture, which is indigenous culture in our community. We have our own family. We have our own family structure. We have our own financial system to sustain, you know. So a lot of people, when I travel around globe, they don't know about, you know, intersectionality within communities. They don't know how did we survive, and that's so beautiful. We have relations like father, mothers, like mentors and students, you know, and that's how we survive. And we have common language in the whole South Asia, which is called Farsi Kalam, to survive us from that violence during the colonialism time. So whenever I travel, I'm really sorry to say that because people have less awareness about intersectionality within community, so they don't understand the dynamics and challenges, and there are very less representation. And when there is a less representation, there is unfair distribution of resources. There is unfair distribution of funds which should help out, you know, those community. And other than that, also the not equal representation. We have to do our own analysis and check how many people are from which community and from which color, from which indigenous culture also. So we always demand for equality, equity, but when it comes to implementation, I think we have to do the homework to learn better and implement it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just let's be clear that intersectionality is not a buzzword or a synonym for diversity. It is about the ways in how oppressions play out. And when we're talking about our prides, we have to understand race, class, gender, sexual orientation, cultures,
also
religion,
Islamophobia.
faith.
I mean, I'm so sorry to say, you know, there are different kind of challenges which is going on in Afghanistan, directly or indirectly affecting Pakistan, immigrants and asylum seekers, but they are not paid that much attention also, you know. They are also from the queer, they are queer Muslims, and they have so many risks also. People don't tolerate much, they kill them. So I don't know why we don't pay attention on such issues.
Well, there are Pride organisers here in the room today, and I know that I have a comrade from Toronto Pride, the executive director, and they talk about ensuring that intersectionality is at the heart, and it's an intersectional pride. So, yeah, thank you so much, Jannat. And Charlene, let's come back to you here. So, ShanghaiPRIDE, the first and longest running Pride in China. Your experience of the Pride movement is absolutely vast, yeah? So how do you ensure, and kind of touching on what Jannat was saying, how do you ensure that those intersections are addressed properly within your activism and advocacy within the Pride movement?
Well, you know, we are always learning. So in the very, very beginning, China is a fairly homogeneous society, you would say, right? You see all Chinese, but actually, if you peel back the layers, the Chinese from different backgrounds, different cities, different ethnicities, 56 ethnicities in China. So the first thing that we addressed was really language is one of the things that we need to address, because we cannot assume that everyone understands English. So what we do is our communications are bilingual, right? Now that we talk to more organizations, more corporations, we realize that, and also local people, we realize that we cannot just say, hey, do you know what LGBT is? We cannot do that. So we have to really use intersectionality, like, let's talk about gender first. Right? You know, okay, men, women, wait a minute, it's not binary gender. So we have to start from there, and then we have to start talking about, and now we do have people who have disabilities who come out and say, actually, I'm gay too. So they bring in the voice, they bring in their expertise and insights on how we as a movement or a pride or a festival or event, how are we going to be inclusive for them? And this is how conversations are being started. Actually, thanks to, well, I shouldn't say thanks, but because of COVID, a lot of our events have to go online, right? Well, not only COVID, but also for political reasons, we have to go online. And what we've learned is we can use captioning, subtitles. And for in-person events, we actually invite sign language interpreters to be there. So it plays right now a significant part in how we move on with curating our content and our events.
Yeah. And just to also say, I guess that when organizing prides, we talk about the intersections, money plays a factor. So if you're in this room and you do have a pretty penny to spare, I'd like you to think differently outside of the box about the Pride leaders who are here and how you can support their organizations as well. So Diane, let me come to you, legends.
Settle.
Yes. Now, we can learn much from you about the Pride movement itself, from demonstrating outside the Chilean embassy in '73, got that right, to Mardi Gras Inc. now as well. How has the LGBTQI+ movement changed over the course of your activism, and what do you think has been some of the most significant milestones? And just to add in there, there's something about intergenerational conversations. How are you making sure that's woven into your work?
Look, I'll start with that at the front and say that some of my colleagues are currently doing roundtables with 2010, the youth organisation, on intergenerational content. That we as 78ers have been out at demonstrations against the religious discrimination bills that have been up in the last few years, and feel it's very important that we get out with younger people and talk about the issues that are facing all of us. Because if there's an attack on, say, the trans part of our LGBTIQ+ community, it's an attack on all of us, and we've got to be very, very clear about that. But also, let's go back to Sydney World Pride. Part of the bid process for that involved celebrating the anniversaries, the 45th anniversary of the first Sydney Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras this year, and the 50th anniversary of Gay Pride Week in 1973. And both of those had international aspects. You've mentioned us demonstrating outside the Chilean embassy on the day that the Allende regime was overthrown by the military. But the first Mardi Gras came about because of a letter from San Francisco asking for international solidarity with anti-LGBTI legislation back in California. So those are key things. That international solidarity is really, really important, and has been in our movement in Australia important from very, very early on. And I think we've got to look at that, and also look at the C word, the A word, as well as the I word for international. The C word is coalition. And what happened after that letter from San Francisco was a coalition of different lesbian and gay groups was built. And what happened after the first Mardi Gras was so viciously attacked by police was a lot of allies came and supported us during the Drop the Charges campaign. So we've got to remember that they're things that we've had going for us for a while, and we need to continue building in that way.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh my gosh, I'm seeing the time. Can you believe that we have 5 minutes left, plus 5 minutes?
Oh my God.
Okay.
They're not taking us off the stage.
Yeah. Okay. Plus another 5 minutes because you laughed. So, look, I've got so many questions. I wanted to ask you all about storytelling and how do we make sure the narrative comes through, but I also wanted to ask you, and in the interest of time, I'm going to ask you all, what can individual organizations do to support the Pride movement and LGBT plus human rights, both locally and internationally? And how can we create that sort of sustained change that we're looking for? So, Jannat, I'll start with you.
Yeah, why not? So I think I will talk about, like, in my country, we can only have trans pride. We cannot say LGBTI, you know. Don't ask, don't tell situation. So you will find a lot of people performing, doing stories about homosexuality, but we cannot say, otherwise they will kill us. So under trans umbrella, we cover rest of community. So recently, transgender movement has been attacked. Our legislation has been challenged by the religious court, religious leaders, and they wanted to win the election. So it's not only happening in Pakistan. I just wanted to request all of people, please do your best to save the transgender movement globally. Because this transgender movement is in danger and our people are dying, and it's not happening slowly. Sometimes we think so much within the box locally that we forget the sacrifices of our rest of community members in different regions. So I think there is a lack of communication, there is a lack of solidarity, and once we are together like a body, then we can fight like a punch. So I really want us to be together. Let's end the communication gap, intra-community conflicts, and let's be stronger together to fight the biggest homophobic and transphobic giants. And just check and balance who are they, from where this money is coming, and how they are implementing, you know.
Thank you, thank you. I'm going to go to Charlene at the end.
Oh, I thought I was going to end. Okay, look. And I'm going to encompass some of the questions that you didn't ask about storytelling to this. Everyone plays a part. Don't ever think that you're too small to do anything, okay? And I'm going to start with individuals first. What can you do? Storytelling. Right now, my wife and I, we use our stories, and it might be, sometimes you think, oh, all stories about LGBT plus will be sad. But no, there are happy stories. Okay, so use this storytelling opportunity to tell people around you, tell your bosses or even your, friends, family you have not come up to, tell them, because it matters and it will move the needle. Communities, what can you do? Don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. Yesterday I heard there is funding out there. Go ask for it. Don't be shy. For the longest time, we in China, we don't ask for money because, hey, that's not a cool thing to do. But now we know there is funding out there. Go ask for it. As corporations, what can you do? A lot, because companies have the loudest voice. Most of us work, we can tell our boss, heck, tell your story to your boss. Maybe they will extend benefits. Maybe they will change policies to protect our LGBT plus employees. Last but not least, governing bodies, governments, right? For us in China, we work a lot with foreign consulates and embassies. Yes, we started off as a celebration, but now we're actually deemed as a protest because we work with these governing bodies. But it doesn't need to be this way. So we need these bodies to keep the pressure on, keep talking to whoever you're talking to up we call them upstairs, with the people upstairs. Keep talking about LGBT plus. Don't be afraid of it. And if you don't remember anything that I said today, just forwards. Keep the pressure on. Forwards.
Lenny? Oh, Diane, yeah. Whichever.
All right, my message here would be solidarity. To be effective, solidarity must be visible and creative. Last year, European Pride Organizers Association came up with a great support project for Ukrainian LGBTQI community. So IPA spread out more than 100 prides in Europe, actually marched with this flag that they created. So Ukrainian flag with logos of the biggest Ukrainian prides, so it's KyivPride and KharkivPride, and people all over Europe were marching with these flags, showing the solidarity, showing that you are here for us, right? Even there was a pride march where there were no Ukrainians, but in spirit, these people were with Ukrainian LGBTQI community and were marching for Ukrainians. So over 100 prides in Europe, Toronto, New York, Tel Aviv, Taiwan, all these countries and cities marched in solidarity and showed it was visible, it was effective, and actually it was very much needed. So if you are in solidarity with the community in the other country, show it, be visible, come up with the ideas, be creative, and support.
Brilliant. Thank you.
We need to tell our stories. They're powerful. We need to learn the lessons from the past because of the right-wing backlash that is rising up around the world. The anti-LGBTIQ plus actions of the Putin regime in Russia, the Viktor Orban regime in Hungary, the Trumpy-Wumpies and what they're doing in the US, vilifying our community. We need to support each other, and we were very proud in the 78ers contingent in the Mardi Gras parade to be carrying banners saying Russia out of Ukraine. And we need to support each other, and that is what we need to carry forward.
Oh my gosh, this is great. You know, I still have so many questions for you all, but this conversation doesn't stop here. So, yes, I want to thank Sydney World Pride, but let's keep on having voices that we don't often get to hear. Let's keep on supporting and making sure that, I did say we give people their flowers whilst they're here, because last year, the year before and the year before that, we have lost many people in our communities, not just because of COVID, not just because of any ailments or disease, but because of the hate and the violence that presides over our bodies because we are LGBTQIA plus people. So I want to thank my panelists for being absolutely resilient. I want to thank you for all that you do, and thank every other Pride organiser for what they do in making sure we create spaces which is by us and for us. Let's make sure that we support each other and we understand that Pride is not just that celebration, but it's a protest, and that we put people before profits when it comes to Pride. And I want to leave you with a very quick quote before they turn off my mic. Now, the most dangerous, and this quote is by James Baldwin. Those that don't know, please Google James Baldwin. The most dangerous creation of any society in the person who has nothing to lose. Anyone who has ever struggled with poverty knows how extremely expensive it is to be poor. Not everything is faced that can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. So we as the panellists say thank you for listening to us, thank you for having us, and again we acknowledge our First Nation siblings and solidarity. Thank you.